I never thought it was something that I would be doing. When I talk about being a public defender, it's just so tied to my identity. It's just, I say, it's the same way that I say, like, I'm a queer woman, I am a Latina, I am a public defender. And I think that's what a lot of public defenders feel like. But for me, we're in a moment of time where running for district attorney, becoming the district attorney, very much so feels like a continuation of the work that I have always done. And it's certainly been informed by my personal experiences growing up. I grew up here in Queens. I grew up in South Richmond Hill, Queens. My parents grew up in the Woodside housing projects and NYCHA housing. And so certainly my experiences in over-policed, over-criminalized, resource-starved communities, you know, that has very much so shaped the work that I do and what I've been fighting for my entire career. That's why I became a public defender. It's why I'm running now. But certainly every day in court was just a constant reminder that our justice system is the single most powerful driver of the continued oppression of our Black and brown, our low income, our immigrant, our LGBTQIA+ communities. But one thing that's also glaringly obvious is that if you have money, if you have the right political ties, if you pad the right pockets, you can get away with doing a lot of harm in our communities. So, you know, for me, one of the drivers for running also was we're in this like third cycle of these so-called progressive prosecutor races. So the playbook is out there, right? And folks know the right things to say. And I've been practicing criminal law in Manhattan and seeing District Attorney Cy Vance sort of come out with these so-called progressive policies and recognizing that, you know, there's a big fat asterisk next to those policies. And my clients who were the exception to the rule before continue to be the exception to the rule afterwards. One of the things that stands out to me, or I've told a lot during this campaign, is when he said he wasn't going to prosecute turnstile jumps. You know, a week later, I picked up a turnstile jump that we litigated for a year and went to trial on. And it was a perfect example of what's wrong with our justice system, that we're making decisions that over-criminalizes our Black and brown and poor communities, that doesn't serve public safety. And so for me, you know, this felt incredibly important to do. And I think that we're in this really special moment in time where we're seeing decarceral prosecutors committed to keeping people rooted in their communities with access to resources and supports be elected all around the country. We're seeing defense attorneys being elected into these positions all around the country, and also being able to navigate relationships with police departments that, you know, coming in were sort of adversarial just based on the things that they were talking about. But there's a lot of common ground to be had. So, you know, we can say that we're going to hold police officers accountable through having independent prosecutors, making sure that our assistant district attorneys that are expected to work every day with the police aren't the people that are then prosecuting them when they step over the line. And then saying also we're going to make it untenable for bad officers to stay employed, saying that if you have a long history of misconduct and a case is relying on your testimony, that we're not going to take those cases. But then also finding ways to work in partnership, right? I mean, there's a real opportunity which hasn't been taken advantage of, where the DA's office can be keeping data and disseminating, sharing it not just with the community, but with the police departments to say, actually, when you make these kinds of arrests, they better serve public safety. You get better public safety and public health outcomes. One of the things that I would love to work, because understanding this is a system within which we're working in, right, that has its own constraints. We can talk about how our system of prosecuting and our system of policing has, again, historically worked to oppress certain communities, namely our Black and brown and low-income communities, but recognizing that there are ways where we can start to dismantle that and do some better work. So the idea that we could be partnering in working on LEAD initiatives, law enforcement-assisted diversion, things that we're seeing in Seattle, up in Albany that are working, that give police officers the opportunity to make the decision not to make an arrest and just to provide support. And in places where they're doing these things, they're seeing violence between officers and civilians go down exponentially. So there are places for partnership and there are places for accountability. As a 31-year-old queer Latina from a working class family, never in a million years did I think that I would be entering a space like this. But I feel not only that I have the right experience, but that we are so well equipped to get the job done. I mean, yeah, I've talked about this before, the fact that this literally started with 4 women sitting around a table saying, we are going to change the system. And 6 months later, we have built something massive, and not just on not on a local level, right? Like, we're doing a lot in Queens, but this is part of a bigger national conversation. We've grown to hundreds and hundreds of volunteers and just have such a beautiful, like, there's such beautiful intersectionality when you talk about the folks that are supporting our campaign. A really powerful moment for me was we were doing this rally, and this was, over a month ago, but, formerly incarcerated folks and sex workers coming together saying, hey, I'm going to support a district attorney candidate because we're doing things so differently. But then beyond that, having the support of community-based organizations, having the support of elected officials like Senator Ramos and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, but, also just national criminal justice advocates.